not done. We got another big story that's breaking, actually two more big stories breaking in baseball.
So do you want to go to this realignment discussion?
Let's talk about realignment.
All right, I'll put it up on the board. I mean, this looks like a radical move, Lee.
That commissioner, before he exits, wants to make a radical change in Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred, in a speech in Atlanta, indicated that we are going to expand. Target date probably 2029. They will add 2 franchises. Now, we'll argue in the next 2 years who those franchises might be. Might it be Portland? Might it be Nashville? That's what most people think. You know, might it be Orlando? Might it be Charlotte? Might be a long shot. Nonetheless, Rob Manfred goes public and says there will be massive realignment when we do this. I want 8 divisions, 4 teams per division. And what he's talking about, in one sentence, he talked about dissolving the American and National League and just realigning geographically. You would have the Yankees and the Mets and the Phillies and the Red Sox that might make up an Eastern division. You could have a Western division geographically, would be the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants and maybe the Diamondbacks or maybe the Angels. But anyhow, this is one of the proposals that's out there right now. So if you just flash down, you can see each division. On the far right, it says National League Southwest. This proposal has got the Dodgers, the Padres, the Angels, and the Diamondbacks. Now, we're going to move some people around. One of the proposals is to take the Colorado Rockies out of the National League and put them over in the American League. Another proposal is to take Tampa Bay out of the American League and move them into the National League in their Southeast Division. So this is fascinating. I don't want to see them dissolve the American and National League. That's too radical for me because there's a lot of heritage that goes back a long, long period of time. But geographical realignment, it's in all the other sports, so maybe it makes a lot of sense. John, leave that board up there. Just what's your take on what Manfred is trying to do?
Well, first of all, the dissolving the AL, NL, it doesn't really bother me. It's like, do you really care? And in the NFL, if there's an AFC and an NFC and the heritage going back to the old AFL days and all that, it doesn't really matter anymore. So I like the geographic alignment. It's kind of weird now that the A's went from the Bay Area to Las Vegas. So they're not like really Northwest. They're really in the Southwest, but they got to stay in the Northwest. It's kind of wacky that way. But I mean, it makes sense from a travel perspective if you have a unbalanced schedule and you play more of your games against teams in your own division.
Aren't you going to get tired, though, of seeing the opponent more rather than what we have now where we all get a taste of Cleveland or the Orioles or the Red Sox because everybody comes in or everybody goes there on a 2-year basis. You get to see everybody, whereas this, you'd be limited how many American League teams you would see in your stadium in a year.
Yeah. So it's interesting how they're going to do that because from the player's perspective, you want to minimize the travel and the wear and tear on them, which I get. I totally get that. But it comes at the expense of us seeing, Padres Diamondbacks like 40 times in the season. And so I don't know how this will work, but I like the whole idea of let's talk about realignment. Let's find some new spots to place some teams. And this is probably going to have an impact on the playoff format.
In addition, this story broke just as I was coming on the air. My hair was on fire walking in the door. There was so much going on. As part of this, it leaked out today. Baseball's talking about going from 162 back to 154, which is the way it used to be for a long period of time. And that would guarantee probably everybody having a Monday off. I kind of like that idea, but the players really like that idea too. So this bears watching. And again, this came from Rob Manfred. This is not set in cement, but this is what they're thinking about. I don't want to see them dissolve. I'm sorry. I'm huge on history. Baseball's got the greatest history of sports of all time.
Yeah, I agree.
So why would we dissolve anything as it relates to the American National League that goes back into the early 1900s?
Well,
Keep that.
But it used to be like the AL had the DH and the NL didn't. And then even the strike zones were different in the leagues, and they've normalized that.
And the umpires were different.
Exactly. So what's the difference now? It's the only thing that matters is history. And the history's great, and we can have the history in our museums and the Hall of Fame and in all of our books and everything. But man, this is 2025. We got to move forward, something more rational.
Do you agree with me? Do you agree with this guy broadcasting from left field, even though he's inside? Because I let him back in the building because it's 100 degrees outside in his driveway. So you want to dissolve the American and National League? Do you like this format, this way this thing has been proposed and structured? And I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement of teams from one division to another. I think this is what they're going to wind up. Some of this is predicated on who the expansion teams are, but like I've indicated, it sure looks like Portland, Nashville, one in the Mid-South, the other in the Northwest, are going to be the two expansion teams that baseball's going to seriously look at. So that's the latest there. Next baseball topic,